I'm going to talk about the new classification of central nervous system tumors, the 2016 WHO classification. So in terms of introduction, for the past century, they used to classify these brain tumors based on histology. So that tumor can be like classified according to their microscopy similarity and their presumed levels of differentiation. So the characterization of such histological similarities has been primarily dependent on three things: light microscopy features in the hematoxylin and the eosin stain sections, and the immunohistochemical expression, and also ultra structural characterization. So there are many classifications which started long back. So there was in 1979 where they released the first classification. So the International Classification of Human Tumors, published by the WHO, was initiated by through a resolution of the WHO Executive Board in 1956. So in the World Health Assembly in 1957, the objectives at that moment was to establish a classification of human tumors that is accepted and used worldwide. So the first edition was released in 1979, as I was saying, but it was just based on histological typing of tumors. And the second edition reflected the advances brought about the introduction of immunohistochemistry into diagnosis of these pathologies. And the third edition, which was released in 2000, here now, they incorporated the genetic profiles and additional aids to the definition of brain tumors. So from there, they moved to the fourth edition, which was released in 2007, which was like similar to the third edition. So in 2014, there was a meeting which was held in Netherlands under the auspice of the International Society of Neuropathology. So whereby they established guidelines for how to incorporate molecular findings into brain tumor diagnosis. So to do so, it required an international collaboration of 117 contributors from 20 countries, and deliberation on the most controversial issue at the 3 days consensus conference by a working group of 35 neuropathologists, neuro-oncological clinical advisor, and scientific from 10 countries. So then from there, they released this 2016 WHO classification, which breaks with the century-old principle of diagnosis based entirely on microscopy by incorporating molecular parameters into the classification. So this new classification, normally it's supposed to be the 5th edition, but they didn't want to say that it was the 5th edition because the decision was not yet made. So the 2016 CNS WHO officially represent an update of the 2007 4th edition rather than a formal 5th edition. So I want just to make sure that you are following me. If you are hearing me, you can just say yes. So
yes,
general.
we hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
So there are like advantages and disadvantages of this, like the use of integrated phenotypic and genotypic parameters adds a level of objectivity, so which will yield more biologically homogeneous entities, and which it is hoped that which intends should lead to greater diagnostic accuracy, as well as improved patient management and more accurate determinations of prognosis and treatment response. So it will, however, also create potentially larger groups of tumors that do not fit into these more narrowly defined entities, the so-called not otherwise specific group. So using both the genotype and phenotype to diagnose these tumors result in nearly all of them being compatible with either a astrocytoma or oligodendroglioma, with only rare report on molecularly true oligoastrocytoma consisting of histologically and genetically distinct. So this classification, I think everyone should have a knowledge of the previous classification to understand this one. So I'm not going to repeat the previous classification. I'll just mention what was modified and what was added. I'll just take few examples from the old one, but it's better to know the first, the previous one for you to understand this one. So, like I was saying, there is this IDH 1P19Q 80RX. So, like astrocytic, I will explain to you. So, on this page, IDH1 means isocytrate dehydrogenase. So IDH mutation is one of the most critical genomic alterations in lower grade and secondary glioblastoma patients. And more than 90% of IDH mutation is located at the codon R132 of IDH1 gene. So IDH mutation produces oncometabolite, which are called 2-hydroxyglutarate, and induces epigenetic alteration such as DNA global methylation and histone methylation. As a result, IDH mutation promote early gliomagenesis. So that's how the mutation occurs there to promote now the genesis of glioma. So this report format, we have like 4 levels on when we are talking about this new classification. The first layer, you give the integrated diagnosis, and the second layer, you give the histological classification. Then the third one, you give the WHO grades, and the layer 4, you give the molecular information. So I'll give you an example like this diffuse astrocytoma grade 2. If I I use the integrated diagnosis, I'll say diffuse astrocytoma, WHO grade 2, IDH mutant, loss of ATRX expression, and no 1P19Q code deletion. Histological classification, diffuse astrocytoma. WHO grade 2, and molecular information, IDH mutant, 1P19Q code deletion absent, and ATRX loss. So when we are talking about AP, remember the chromosome has 2 arms, the short and the long. The short arm is called P, and the long is 19, is Q, sorry. So when we are talking about code deletion 1P, it means there is loss of short arm on the chromosome 1 and loss of long arm on chromosome 19. So there's loss of both in this case that we're talking about 1P19Q code deletion. So as a result, both the more common astrocytoma and oligodendroglioma subtypes become more homogeneously defined. So in this new classification, the prior diagnosis of oligoastrocytoma and anaplastic oligoastrocytoma are now designated as not otherwise specified categories. I will explain more about that. We'll talk about the nomenclature. So now the diagnostic use of both histology and molecular genetic features also raises the possibility of discordant result, e.g. a diffuse glioma that histologically appears astrocytic but proves to have IDH mutation and 1p19q co-deletion, or a tumor that resembles oligodendroglioma by light microscopy, but has IDH, ATRX, and TP53 mutations in the setting of intact 1p and 19q. So this leads now to the question of whether classification can proceed on the basis of genotypes alone without histology. And they are saying at this point, this is not possible because one must still make a diagnosis of diffuse glioma to understand the nosological and clinical significance of specific genetic changes. So in addition, WHO grade determinations are still made on basis of histologic criteria. So another reason why phenotype remains essential is that there are individual tumors that do not meet the more narrowly defined phenotype and genotype criteria, e.g. the rare phenotypically classical diffuse astrocytoma that lacks the signature genetic characteristics of IDH and ATRX mutations. So for now, the 2016 classification is predicated on the basis of combined phenotype and genotype classification, and on the generation of integrated diagnosis. And lastly, it is important to acknowledge that changing the classification to include some diagnostic categories that require genotyping may create challenges with respect to testing and reporting. So this is the table which is showing the new classification, what was added and what was deleted. So I just showed here because I will concentrate more on gliomas because the major change of this classification was on gliomas. The other things were just few things which were modified. Like here, you see we used to classify the diffuse astrocytoma with 3 subtypes: the gemistocytic astrocytoma, the fibrillary astrocytoma, and protoplasmic astrocytoma. If you check the 2007 classification, you see that the diffuse astrocytoma has these 3 subtypes. But now, according to this new classification, the fibrillary astrocytoma was removed from the classification, and the protoplasmic astrocytoma was also removed from the new classification. But the gemistocytic astrocytoma remains in the classification, but they added now the molecular level at that point. And also, if you see on ependymal tumors, the cellular ependymoma was also removed from the classification. So I will give you a table where I'm just mentioning only things which were modified. So in terms of nomenclature, CNS tumors diagnosis should consist of 1, a histopathological name, followed by the genetic features, with the genetic features following a comma and as adjectives. Like you can see here, diffuse astrocytoma, comma, IDH mutant, and like medulloblastoma, comma, WNT activated. So combining now histopathological and molecular features into diagnosis necessarily result in portmanteau diagnostic terms and raises the need to standardize such terminology in as practical a manner as possible. So for entities with more than one genetic determinant, the multiple necessary molecular features are included in the name. For example, oligodendroglioma, IDH mutant, and 1p19q co-deleted. For a tumor lacking a genetic mutation, then the term wild type can be used if an official wild type entities exist, like glioblastoma IDH wild type. And in a formal wild type diagnosis, if a formal wild type diagnosis is not available, and a tumor lacking a diagnosis mutation is given, a not otherwise specified designation will be given. If a specific genetic alteration is present or absent, then terms positive can be used in the molecular characteristic, like ependymoma, RELA fusion positive. We'll talk about that. Then for sites lacking any access to molecular diagnosis testing, a diagnostic designation, as I was saying, of not otherwise specified is permissible for some tumors type. An NOS designation implies that there is insufficient information to assign a more specific code. And in this context, NOS in most instances refers to tumors that have not been fully tested for relevant genetic parameters, but in rare instances may also include tumors that have been tested but do not show the diagnostic genetic alterations. In other words, NOS not otherwise specified does not define a specific entity. Rather, it designates a group of lesions that cannot be classified into any of the more narrowly defined groups. So with regard to formatting, italics are used for specific gene symbols like ATRS, IDH, ATRS, but not, I'm saying with regards to formatting, italics are used for specific gene symbols, but not for gene families. So to avoid numerous sequential hyphens, wild type have been used without a hyphen, and end dashes have been used in certain designations like RELA fusion positive. Finally, as in the past, like the previous classification, the WHO grades are written in Roman numerals, not this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. So, and NOS, not otherwise specified designation, thus represent those cases about which we do not know enough pathology or genetic and clinical, and which should therefore be subject to future study before additional refinement in classification. So this is now the summary, a table which is showing the summary of major changes in the 2016 classification. Like you can see here, they are saying the major restructuring of medulloblastoma with incorporation of genetically defined entities. But things which were now deleted from that classification, from the former classification, like gliomatosis cerebri, protoplasmic and fibrillary astrocytoma variant, cellular ependymoma variant, primitive neuroectodermal tumor. Those things were removed from the old classification. So you won't find them in the new classification. So let us now talk about diffuse gliomas. So in the past, all astrocytic tumors have been grouped together, and now all diffusely infiltrating gliomas are grouped together, whether astrocytic or oligodendroglial. So based not only on their growth pattern and behavior, but also more pointedly on the shared genetic driver mutations in the IDH1 and IDH2 genes. So from a pathogenetic point of view, this provides a dynamic classification that is based on both phenotype and genotype. From a prognostic point of view, it groups tumors that share similar prognostic markers. And from the patient management point of view, it gives the use of therapies like conventional or targeted for biological and genetically similar entities. So in this new classification, the diffuse glioma include the WHO grade 2 and grade 3 astrocytic tumors, and grade 2 and grade 3 oligodendroglioma, grade 4 glioblastoma, as well as the related diffuse glioma of childhood. So this approach leaves those astrocytoma that have a more circumscribed growth pattern, lack of IDH gene family alteration, and frequently have BRAF alterations like pilocystic astrocytoma, pleomorphic xanthoastrocytoma, or TSC1, TSC2 mutations, subepithelioma giant cell astrocytoma. So diffuse astrocytoma and anaplastic astrocytoma. The WHO grade 2 diffuse astrocytoma and WHO grade 3 anaplastic astrocytoma are now each divided into IDH mutant, and the majority falls into this group. There is also IDH wild type and not otherwise specified categories. So if immunohistochemistry for mutant like codon R132H in IDH1 gene and sequencing for IDH1 codon 132 and IDH2 codon 172 gene mutations are both negative. Or if sequencing for IDH1 codon 132 and IDH2 codon 172 gene mutations alone is negative, then the lesion can be diagnosed as IDH wild type. So historically, the prognosis differences between WHO grade 2 diffuse astrocytoma and the WHO grade 3 anaplastic astrocytoma were highly significant. So this table is showing now like the differences between the 2007 and the 2016 classification. If you are seeing on the right side, the 2007, the classification of tumors of neuroepithelial tissue, they were talking about astrocytic tumors, whereby we were talking about pilocystic astrocytoma, pilomyxoid astrocytoma, then subependymal giant cell astrocytoma, and diffuse astrocytoma with these three subtypes: fibrillary, gemistocytic, and protoplasmic. So they were classified as grade 1, it was subependymal giant cell astrocytoma plus pilocystic astrocytoma. And in grade 2, that way we could find the diffuse astrocytoma, the pilomyxoid astrocytoma, and pleomorphic xanthoastrocytoma. Then grade 3, it was anaplastic astrocytoma. And grade 4, we have the glioblastoma. But if you check now on the new classification on top here on the left, we are now talking about diffuse astrocytic and oligodendroglial tumors, where we are talking about diffuse astrocytoma, IDH mutant, which is WHO grade 2, anaplastic astrocytoma, IDH mutant, which is WHO grade 3, and glioblastoma, IDH wild type, and IDH mutant, which are WHO grade 4. And now, this pilocystic astrocytoma, it falls now into the other astrocytic tumors. So where you can find out pilocystic astrocytoma, subependymal giant cell astrocytoma, pleomorphic xanthoastrocytoma, and the anaplastic pleomorphic xanthoastrocytoma. They fall into other astrocytic tumors. So there's this table showing like the histology type. Like I told you before, we can't neglect the histology. We always start with histology, then genetics. Histology, then genetics, because it's difficult to classify tumors only according to their genetics. So we get the histology, we get the IDH status, then the 1p19q, and other genetic parameters. So we have now these 4 on top. We have astrocytoma, oligoastrocytoma, oligodendroglioma, and glioblastoma. So the first 3 can be either IDH mutant or IDH wild type. If they are IDH wild type, then after exclusion of other entities, then you can conclude that they are diffuse astrocytoma IDH wild type or oligodendroglioma, not otherwise specified. But if there is 1p19q co-deletion, then you get oligodendroglioma, IDH mutant, and 1p19q co-deleted. So, but if the genetic testing is not done, or it was done, it was inconclusive, then you talk about not otherwise specified, like diffuse astrocytoma, not otherwise specified. Then for glioblastoma, which is WHO grade 4, we have glioblastoma ADH mutant, glioblastoma IDH wild type. So in terms of gliomas, we are just talking about mutation in the IDH gene. So, or it's a IDH wild type if the thing was not, the mutation was not specified. So glioblastoma in this new classification is divided into 3. We have glioblastoma IDH wild type, glioblastoma IDH mutant, and glioblastoma not otherwise specified. The first one comprises about 90% of cases, the wild type, which correspond most frequently with the clinical defined primary or de novo glioblastoma and predominant in patients over 55 years of age. The second one, the IDH mutant, comprises about 10% of cases and which correspond closely to so-called secondary glioblastoma with a history of prior lower grade diffuse glioma and preferentially arises in young patients. Remember this, you can get a low grade glioma which can transform to malignant, to glioblastoma. So that's the one usually you get the IDH mutant, and it comprises 10%. Then there is the last one, which is the glioblastoma not otherwise specified. So one provisional new variant of glioblastoma has been added to the classification, the epithelioid glioblastoma. And it joins the giant cell glioblastoma and gliosarcoma under the umbrella of IDH wild type glioblastoma. So this new variant feature large epithelioid cells with abundant eosinophilic cytoplasm, vesicular chromatin, prominent nucleoli, and the variably present rhabdoid cells. So they have a predilection for children and younger adults, typically present as superficial cerebral or diencephalic masses, and often have a BRAF V600E mutation, which can be deleted immunohistochemically. So there is also, like in one series, a recently recognized subtype of glioblastoma called rhabdoid glioblastoma, which were distinguished from their similarity appearing epithelioid counterpart on the basis of loss of INI1 expression. So I think I'll go straight to the table. Yes, this is on the right side, the previous classification, the 2007 classification, where they're talking about glioblastoma, then giant cell glioblastoma, gliosarcoma, and gliomatosis cerebri. So here now, in the new classification, we are talking about glioblastoma IDH wild type and glioblastoma IDH mutant. So they're giving their synonym there, and precursor lesion. Here they say usually it occurs de novo, but the mutant usually it comes from diffuse astrocytoma or anaplastic astrocytoma. And the proportion of glioblastoma, the wild type comprises 90% and the IDH mutant 10%. This is just a summary of what I was mentioning before. And also the male to female ratio is just slightly in males than females. So yeah. So let's talk now about the oligodendroglioma. So here the diagnosis of oligodendroglioma and anaplastic oligodendroglioma requires the demonstration of both an IDH gene family mutation and combined whole arm losses of 1p and 19q co-deletion. So in the absence of positive mutant, immunohistochemistry sequences of IDH1 codon 133 and IDH2 codon 172 is recommended. So in the setting of anaplastic oligodendroglioma with non-diagnostic genetic result, careful evaluation for genetic features of glioblastoma may be undertaken. So, however, care should be taken to exclude histological mimics like pilocystic astrocytoma, the dysembryoplastic neuroepithelial tumor, and the clear cell ependymoma. So it is also recognized that tumors of childhood that histologically resemble oligodendroglioma often do not demonstrate IDH gene family mutation and 1p19q co-deletion until such tumors are better understood at the molecular level. They should be included in the oligodendroglioma, not otherwise specified category. So in this new classification, the diagnosis of oligoastrocytoma is strongly discouraged. So it was removed from the classification. So this is pediatric diffuse glioma. I'll skip this one. Dr. Noru spoke about this. And yes, if we see again this table, which is giving us the classification of oligodendroglioma, on the left side and right side, it's the old classification, the 2007, but here at the center, this is the new classification, the 2016. So oligodendrogliomas, there was grade 2, WHO grade 2 oligodendroglioma, and grade 3, it was anaplastic oligodendroglioma. And now we are talking about oligodendroglioma IDH mutant and 1p19q co-deleted, or oligodendroglioma not otherwise specified. So other astrocytomas, like I mentioned in that table, that's where we are finding now the anaplastic pleomorphic xanthoastrocytoma and pleomorphic xanthoastrocytoma. So the ependymoma, in one genetically defined ependymoma subtype has been accepted, ependymoma RELA fusion positive. So this variant accounts for the majority of supratentorial tumor in children, and the specificity of L1CAM expression, a potential immunohistochemical surrogate for this variant, has yet to be fully elucidated. So lastly, one ependymoma variant, cellular ependymoma, has been deleted from the classification. Remember in that picture where I showed that this was removed from the, so in the new classification, you only see the cellular ependymoma. And the newly recognized, like neural and mixed neuronal gliomas, newly recognized entities, diffuse leptomeningeal glioneuronal tumor, which present with diffuse leptomeningeal disease with or without a recognizable parenchymal component, commonly in the spinal cord. So most often in children and adolescents, and histologically demonstrate a monomorphic clear cell gliomorphology. So though often with expression of synaptophysin in addition to Olig-2 and S100. So this newly recognized entity, the diffuse leptomeningeal glioneural tumor, is an entity known in the literature under a variety of similar terms, perhaps most notably as disseminated oligodendroglial, like leptomeningeal tumor of children. Yeah, this is histology pictures showing the diffuse midline glioma, which Dr. Nuru was talking about. So, yeah, I will skip this one. Then the medulloblastoma, they are long established histologically variant of medulloblastoma that have clinical utility. For example, desmoplastic, nodular, medulloblastoma with extensive nodularity, large cell, and anaplastic. So, and it is now widely accepted that there are 4 genetic molecular groups of medulloblastoma. So from the previous classification, the new classification now is classifying them like WNT activated, winglet activated medulloblastoma. Then there is this SHH, which means sonic hedgehog activated medulloblastoma, then which is like group 1, group 3, then the numerically designated group 3 and group 4. So we have now 3 groups: the winglet activated, the sonic hedgehog activated, and group 3, group 4. So here is the table, the summary of the most common integrated medulloblastoma diagnosis with the clinical correlates. So you get your genetic profile, your histology, then the prognosis on the right side. So there are other embryonal tumors, like I said before, primitive neuroectodermal tumor, or PNET. We used to call them PNET. They are no longer, this term is no longer used. It was removed from this classification. They prefer to call them embryonal tumors. Like medulloblastoma, you can't call it again PNET, it's now embryonal tumor. So there are also other classifications which were not like changed entirely. They just brought few or mild changes, like atypical teratoid and rhabdoid tumors, and also nerve sheath tumors, where they just brought minor changes. And meningioma, the classification and grading of meningioma did not undergo a revision in this new classification. So I think from there, yeah. So lymphomas and the histiocytic tumors, given the changes that have occurred in the classification of system, lymphomas and histiocytic neoplasm over the past decade, the new classification has expanded these categories to parallel those in the corresponding hematopoietic and the lymphoid WHO classifications. So the take-home message is uses molecular parameters in addition to histology to define many tumors, many tumor entities may create certain challenges with respect to testing and reporting. So such challenges will be overcome in the near future with increasing availability of IHC surrogate for molecular and genetic tests. So not otherwise specified designation create potentially larger groups at centers. Those do not have the ability to carry out molecular analysis. And modular and integrated approach to diagnosis will allow greater flexibility for future changes in classification as such knowledge expands. So, and will facilitate clinical, experimental, and epidemiological studies that will lead to improvement in the lives of patients with brain tumors. So this was like a brief classification. I didn't take a tumor and go deep in the tumor, like presentation, clinical findings. No, I was just talking about this classification. And so thank you for your attention.